There's an image you've probably seen hundreds of times. You're at the gas station at 10 p.m. looking for a questionable snack. And next to the cash register, beside the gum and lighters, you see a small red bottle with a demon that looks like it's spitting fire. It's Fireball. You grab it, thinking a shot of cinnamon whiskey is a good way to start the night. But let me stop you right there. You've just fallen for one of the most brilliant and lucrative marketing tricks in recent history. Because that little devil on the bottle doesn't contain a single drop of whiskey. This isn't a story about centuries-old distilleries or about master blenders with impeccable mustaches. This is the story of how a forgotten drink, a complete failure, was reinvented by exploiting a legal loophole so big, it seemed impossible that no one had noticed it before. It's the story of how the Sazerac company, its owners, convinced the world to drink something that isn't what it seems, generating an astonishing $863 million in sales. How did they do it? Well, it all starts with a name so unappealing it sounds like a Harry Potter side character. Before it became the king of college parties, Fireball was called Dr. McGillicuddy's Fireball Whiskey. Seriously, it was gathering dust on the lowest shelves of liquor stores in the early 2000s. It was a schnapps, a sweet, liqueur-like drink that tried to pass itself off as whiskey for an audience that didn't want it. Real whiskey drinkers found it way too sweet. And young partygoers thought it was as boring as an accounting class at 8 a.m. It was destined to disappear. But then, an executive at Sazerac had an epiphany. He saw that the market for flavored liqueurs aimed at young people was saturated, but the party whiskey market was practically empty. They asked themselves a question that would change everything. What if we created a whiskey designed for partying, not for purists? The problem was threefold. First, the name was a disaster. Second, real whiskey burns. And their target audience wanted something that went down as easily as candy. And third, real whiskey requires years of aging in barrels. And it costs a fortune to produce. They had neither the time nor the money. So, what did they do? They broke the rules, or rather, they bent them until they screamed for mercy. The first thing was a makeover. They killed the doctor. Goodbye, Dr. McGillicuddy. Hello, Fireball. A short, explosive, memorable name. A name that shouted party instead of first aid kit. Then they kept the sweet schnapps formula. Smooth, sugary, and dangerously easy to drink. But here comes the genius of the deception. They needed to call it whiskey to get into that market. The problem is that to make whiskey in the United States, legally, a drink needs to have at least 40% alcohol and be aged. Fireball only had 33% and hadn't even seen a barrel in pictures. That's when they found their holy grail, the legal loophole of flavored whiskey. Or flavored whiskey. The law said that if you put that label on it and added a minimal, almost symbolic amount of real whiskey, you could skip the whole costly and lengthy process of distillation and aging. So that's what they did. They bought cheap Canadian whiskey in bulk. They mixed just enough into their cinnamon concoction to meet the requirement, and that was it. They had a product that looked like whiskey. It was sold as whiskey, but it cost a fraction to produce. It was the equivalent of saying your salad is bacon-flavored because a single molecule of pork flew through the kitchen. But how do you sell an imposter to the whole world? This is where the story gets even more interesting. Sazerac didn't spend millions on TV ads or hire George Clooney. They unleashed one of the most effective guerrilla marketing strategies I've ever seen. In 2007, they sent a brand ambassador named Richard Palms to Nashville with a very simple mission: to make Fireball the shot everyone was talking about. His method was brilliantly simple. He would walk into a bar, buy rounds of Fireball for strangers, post about it on social media, and then head to the next bar to do it all over again. Night after night. They didn't position themselves as a premium whiskey, but as the shot everyone was taking. The drink that could turn an ordinary night into a legendary one. And bar owners loved them. Why? Because of the profit margin. A shot of liquor has a margin of between 400 and 500%, the highest of any drink. It cost a bar about 60 cents to serve a shot of Fireball, and they sold it for $5 or $7. That's a margin of almost 900%. When someone came in buying rounds, the bartenders paid attention. In just 2 years, from 2011 to 2013, Fireball's sales went from $1.9 million to $61 million. A 3,100% increase, but this was just the beginning of its conquest. Knowing that authenticity was their secret weapon, they decided to build an army. Not of corporate salespeople in suits and ties, but of regular people. They deployed ambassadors on college campuses, country music festivals, and sporting events. They didn't wear uniforms or give sales pitches. They seemed like just another friend at the party who by chance happened to have a bunch of free Fireball to hand out. While their competitors were spending fortunes on Super Bowl ads, Fireball was investing in creating experiences and generating organic word of mouth. It was as if the Joker decided to go into beverage marketing. A controlled chaos that was brilliantly effective. This strategy is very similar to the one many tech startups use today. Instead of mass advertising, they focus on referral programs and on building a community of super users who evangelize the product. Think about how Dropbox grew by offering extra space for every friend you invited. Or how the first Airbnb users felt like they were part of an exclusive movement. Fireball did the same thing, but with cinnamon shots. They turned their customers into their best salespeople. And just when they were on top of the world, with sales of $863,500,000 in 2014, everything was about to fall apart. That year, Fireball was pulled from shelves in several European countries. The reason? It contained propylene glycol, a chemical that is also used in antifreeze. Panic was immediate. The headlines were brutal. Before you get scared, it's important to clarify that propylene glycol is approved by the United States Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, and is found in thousands of foods. The problem was that the limits in Europe are much stricter, and Fireball exceeded them by a lot. Any other brand would have gone into crisis mode, apologizing and pulling the product from shelves. What did Sazerac do? None of that. In just 3 weeks, they reformulated the recipe for Europe, lowered the chemical levels, and started selling again. But the most incredible thing is what happened next. The scandal, which should have destroyed them, made them even more famous. Everyone was talking about Fireball. The controversy gave them massive free publicity. The Streisand effect at its finest. By the end of 2015, they had already surpassed Jägermeister in popularity. The crisis not only didn't kill them, it made them stronger, more rebellious, more desirable. And they were getting ready for their masterstroke, the final trick that would take them to every corner of the country. By 2016, Fireball dominated liquor stores, but Sazerac wanted more. They saw an untapped market of 170,000 new locations. Gas stations, supermarkets, convenience stores. The only problem was that in most states, it's illegal to sell high-proof liquor in those places. For any other company, that would be an insurmountable wall. For Sazerac, it was just another legal loophole waiting to be exploited. So they created a second version of their product, one specifically designed for this trick. This new version, sold in the famous 50ml mini bottles, contained only 16.5% alcohol legally. This classified it as a malt beverage, the same category as beer. This meant it could be sold anywhere. And here's the evil genius of it all. They designed the packaging to be practically identical to that of the real whiskey bottle. Same logo, same font, same colors, same devil. The only almost invisible difference was in the text. The big bottle says cinnamon whiskey. The small one just says cinnamon. And if you take out a magnifying glass, in tiny letters you read, malt beverage with natural whiskey and other flavors. No whiskey, but whiskey flavors. Packaging experts say that a shopper in a physical store takes between 3 and 5 seconds to decide whether to buy a product. Sazerac bet everything that in those 3 seconds, no one would notice the difference. And they were right. The mini bottles flooded the country, and most people had no idea they were drinking a malt-based beverage with flavorings. The success was so overwhelming that Fireball was classified as one of the 50 best-selling beer brands in the United States. Yes, beer. Because legally that's what it was. The deception was perfect. And very, very profitable. So how can you avoid falling into the trap? Well, here's a hack at Mission Impossible level. Your mission, should you choose to accept it. It's something your parents have told you your whole life. Read the fine print. Before you buy that mini bottle at the gas station, turn it around. If it doesn't say whiskey and you see the words malt beverage, you know you're buying the imposter. It's a simple trick, but it saves you the disappointment. As a practical tip, if you like the taste but not the deception, you can make your own version at home. All you need is a decent base whiskey and some cinnamon sticks. Let it infuse for a few days and that's it. You have your own cinnamon liqueur and you know exactly what's in it. But could you make Axe get away with it for good? Eventually someone noticed. In February 2023, a New York woman named Sharon Pizarro filed a class action lawsuit against Sazerac. Their argument? Fraud. She bought what she thought was whiskey at a convenience store and was cheated to discover it was a flavored malt beverage. The demand? He alleges that Sakarak deliberately designed these small bottles to be almost identical to the large ones in order to deceive consumers. Sakarak's defense was simple and cynical. We followed all labeling regulations, and technically that was true. The case raises a much deeper question. Does the fact that something is legal mean that it's right? The lawsuit argues that Sakarak violated multiple consumer protection laws by creating a false expectation. To this day, the product is still being sold exactly the same way, and the lawsuit is ongoing. The regulatory loophole they exploited remains open, showing that laws are often one step behind the cleverest marketing strategies. Fireball didn't sell a product, it sold a feeling. It sold fire, rebellion, the illusion of a wild night bottled up. And it worked spectacularly. In the end, the story of Fireball isn't really about whiskey. It's about perception. It shows that in the world of marketing, the story you tell about your product is often more important than the product itself. They didn't change what was inside the original bottle. They changed what people believed was inside it. And by doing so, they built an empire worth nearly $1 billion from the ashes of a forgotten schnapps. So the next time you see that little red bottle in the box, smile. You're not just looking at a simple drink, you're looking at a monument to the power of marketing. A reminder that reality is sometimes just a matter of perspective. And now I have 2 questions for you. Have you ever bought a product and then realized it wasn't what you thought it was? Where do you think the line should be drawn between smart marketing and deceiving the consumer? If you found this story about how the rules are bent to build a brand fascinating, you're going to love discovering how a Ghostbusters actor and a crystal skull managed to create a $100 million vodka that challenged the entire industry. You can watch that analysis by clicking here.